I've been trying to work at a new engine concept in my head that uses plasma to control molecular bonds and expand and compress based on the field energy of the plasma, so that piston engines could be, can continue all this technology we've been working on for the last 78, 80, over 100 years now. What am I saying? So, well over 100 years, right? And piston-driven engines are so much fun. The sound is so much fun. Electric cars suck, right? Boring. Instant torque. That's the best aspect of an electric car. But they have no real soul. It doesn't feel like you're connected to the machine like an analog manual car. And so I was thinking of taking the concept of the car and reversing. I know I'm just shining this at catalytic converters, but I haven't drawn this out yet. And how we could basically reverse the car, input bad air and output good air, or using whatever this molecule is, because I've been wrapping my brain around it. I cannot figure out what it would be. That whatever this molecule could be is variously bonded complex molecules that, when you introduce a plasmic field to them, like a neon light, expand because you're breaking the bonds, overcharging them, and then as that expands, you intake oxygen and use that not only to cool the engine, but run it sort of like a turbo around the piston to also, as you reduce the plasma field inside the chamber, then the piston's going to want to shrink again, and that also simultaneously pull air in, move air, and then we can use that to reverse carbon emissions. And so that's just like moving on from that, trying to understand that, and how cars are always producing too much heat, for one thing. Engines do. And catalytic converters take, they say, carbon monoxide and unburned hydrocarbons and produce carbon dioxide and water. And so I'm thinking of what if we had one piston that was internal combustion? That flies to an external catalytic converter, similar to what an intake filter would be like on the piston. That goes to a second chamber that then you input water for steam that runs it, and then you take that sort of steam engine piston section that helps remove heat from the internal combustion piston, that then creates a supercritical fluid CO2 that can then run a turbine to generate this plasmic field. And I think that it could be possible, and it sounds a little fantastic, I know, but to intake and then output the same thing, if we can, and just like fusion and fission, I mean, we can build and destroy atoms, but sounds crazy. It's just, I'm wondering if there ain't a way to create a new hybrid type of engine that's not simply mechanical. I want to still hear that sound when I drive. And so we waste all this time in in a car, taking all that gas and pushing it out the rear end so that we can intake clean air. But I think we're missing a lot of opportunities here, because if we can produce CO2, then we can take that heat, that extra heat, and say run a single cycle engine that you have two output sources of heat. And so think of it like the standard water cooling now, but you could have that heat produce not only steam, but a supercritical fluid turbine driven system that then could intake air. And I mean, if we can figure out how to, you know, filter older carbon emissions, older CO2 emissions, then we can bring in more supercritical CO2. And you could have just all these reliable sources working together, and we could clean the air just as we have dirtied it. So, I mean, if you take your weakness and use it as a strength, you flip it around, we can turn every car into this instead of just an electric car that doesn't fucking do anything other than get you from point A to point B. Ooh, if we could get everybody cleaning air again, then and it'll shut all those fucking people up, and we can still have combustion engines, and we can still enjoy all this stuff that we've enjoyed all these years. Because it seems like these nuts that want electric cars want to take away your right to enjoy an analog vehicle. And driving is one of my favorite things. Honestly, it's the one thing that I can do all day, every day, and I never get tired of. And I don't want to lose that. And a lot of people don't want to lose that. So there's a way to use all this technology we've built up, all this engineering and mechanical understanding, to still have that fun that we've been having. And so I just don't know what gas it would be. I always hypothesized a ferromagnetic gas, and that would pertain back to my my anti-gravity device that could manipulate the boundary layer of air to create high and low pressure, so that, where's this drawing? I've shown this before, haven't I? I thought it was right here. I mean, I don't think I'm that crazy. Like, I'm just making up this different reality in my head at a certain point. So this is what I thought ferromagnetic gas would do, or some sort of molecule that can bond and unbond by concentrated magnetic fields. So, you know, it's a cyclic mass system. So I'm always talking about cyclic mass. And so, you know, you got your, whatever this molecule is that can bond in a magnetic field, creates higher pressure. And then as you push it outwardly, reduces pressure, comes around, follows the boundary layer of air, and attracts towards this, that as it reduces from that, or it increases distance away from that magnetic field concentration. So it's similar to what I'm thinking about for a plasmic cyclic mass piston, to where you increase the plasma field in the piston chamber like a nitrogen valve, right, for an F1 car. And that gas increases pressure, which expands, but actually it's decreasing mass, and would sort of do the same thing. It would just be contained. And then, so if you had a supercritical CO2 turbine generator also on this engine, then you could generate your plasma for use in that, and then you'd have this like huge series of things working together. And say one drop of fuel would last, I don't know, a lot longer, I'm sure, as long as you can keep generating that heat. So you need the heat, right? Well, and then so you can pump in air, bring in CO2 and output O2. Or can we take in carbon monoxide and bond that and just like the same produce CO2 and H2O? And run, say, a catalytic converter pre-combustion to then bring in air. And because I'm not a chemist, I get the basics of it. And it's been so long since I was in school, I don't remember how to calculate all that stuff anymore. It's just chemistry is awesome, but I'm mechanically minded, so I know that Elon Musk is offering $100 million to anybody who can, create a carbon capture technology. Well, I think this is a hell of a good fucking idea for it. I've never found a place to submit ideas to him, though. You look online, you can't find it, and I've had multiple. Well, it's not just because of him or that fucking prize. I've been thinking about this for a lot longer than that ever came out, and now I'm working on another system that I wrote out some rules for it and how we can structure a purely green. It's like think of it like a greenhouse combined with a skyscraper, combined with generators, combined with thermal generators and wind turbines and electrical, what do you call it? My brain is pooping. But so going back to the car and this sort of thing, it's always the same concepts. And one, we never want to use geothermal energy. We don't want to cool our core. And the whole goal is to sort of create a biome to intake atmosphere, siphon CO2 from O2N and O3, and then use excess CO2 to create carbon, among other resources. And this goes back into, I think the whole point of carbon capture also is so that we can take that carbon back and use it for other things, like carbon fibers, and pursuing more advanced carbon technologies. But the whole point of this is that it will generate electricity hydrodynamically, atmospherically, gravitationally, superfluidly, solar power as well, obviously, as that is a huge resource to intake, and not just heat, but photon energies, and radiative energy, spectral energy, whatever. Cyclic, yes, this would take into account also my cyclic generator, my cyclic mass, supercritical fluid generator system, and then will function like the car. It'll input and output good and reverse what we've done. So we take our process and we just basically use it as a strength, the weaknesses, and we can fix our atmosphere. This is why I've been saying for a long time, we don't need the fucking Paris Agreement. The United States can fix our own goddamn problems. wasted resources recycle into usable resources, producing seeds and right, etc. Oh, to stimulate forest growth, seed shells, leaves, bark, pine, basically anything in this skyscraper can be used to fix any problem we have caused in nature. So I've been talking a lot about using pine cones, taking the seeds, and then using grass leaves and plant fibers and basically anything that is recycled into soil as a nutrient base. Well, a lot of this can be used not only to harvest seeds from pine cones and pine trees, but the pine cones themselves can be used to make paper. And so in this warehouse, this skyscraper, which can be layered top to bottom, I've been having a hard time drawing it. I've been wanting to draw this all out, but it's easier for me to explain right now. In that, just like the elevation differences from the mountains where pine trees thrive versus humid layers, we can build this thing into the earth too. So it goes underground where we can accumulate moisture, and I mean we can literally grow any fucking thing in this. I mean fungus, mushrooms, and what do you want? Brussels sprouts, corn, whatever. And so it'll provide jobs too, tons of jobs. It'll produce enough food, nearly any kind, for any resource in any environment is what this is capable of. I mean, you can build this fucker in Dubai and you just flip around a little bit of the thermal variables to produce a little bit more supercritical CO2 or whatever else. And so solar energy, importantly, is multi-applicable with this, and I'm going to make a short video. Start rambling off. It goes back into the video I made about the perfect artist utopian society, and that this is most likely our future. And my whole goal, innocently now, is to provide people the ability to get out of these fucking apartment buildings and still live on Earth and enjoy the land. And instead of using 90% of our surface area for our land for growing corn, you can focalize that and use space more efficiently so that we could set these up in every continent, and they act sort of like, in concept, the way Tesla wanted to provide free energy, that he could make one tower that provides energy for everybody, so it wouldn't destroy culture. That's one issue with all of this and why I don't pursue it wholeheartedly. It's just that we can provide so much to the world with this. It's unbelievable. And it can fix hunger problems also. I don't understand why nobody else has come up with this, but the philosophy required is you need a depth of philosophy to understand paradoxes so that you avoid the corruption of how this could be used as a negative. How could you use this against the people? Well, I don't know. I can't figure it out. It provides electricity. It provides cyclic and biometric and atmospheric. And this can intake air efficiently and effectively. And it can, just like the car I was mentioning, can help fix a lot of problems just by using weaknesses as strengths. What's one weakness with building skyscrapers? They use a lot of electricity. People are trapped indoors. They're unhappy. They're competitive. They're ruining each other's lives to define happiness. using that as a niche motion, and instead you flip it. You use your weaknesses as strengths. And I'm not saying putting cows in these things. I mean, if you wanted to, you could. I think it'd be awful. It'd be like taking a chicken coop and stacking it on itself infinitely and letting gravity roll these eggs down and generating electricity from that. But I mean, shit, if you wanted to get really creative, you could put cows at the top, hook their genitals up, and use pee. I mean, to generate electricity as it falls back down. And there's so many just things that can be done that people probably haven't come up with, or they realize it's really not worth it. Either way, I think a lot of aggression in society stems from trapping people in these buildings and charging them for existing. It's really depressing to think about how we have to exist and we just stack it on and make it worse. You gotta be taxed for living and working, and you're stuck in an apartment that you can't own. Treating people like animals do. It's disgusting. Anyway, so that's that. That's what I've been working on recently. Trying to analyze more how these can all work together because of an old invention that I wanted to make, which is a simple drawing. Just a simple drawing. I think it's with... Where is it? Not back here. It's a water cycling system so that we can take showers and infinitely to reuse the same shower water, so that once you do get clean, if you just want to stand in the shower and enjoy it, like I do, I love just doing that, so then you can just take in water and basically just reuse it over and over again. You hit a switch, it filters it, or it doesn't if you don't want it to. And I mean, it's just like a bath, but it's just flowing in a circle. No different than a bath, essentially. You can sit in the bathtub as long as you want, right? Well, this will just flow water through a water heater. No shit, there's so many things you can do. You can use the water flowing down a drain to generate electricity if you want to. And then there's so many ideas. Like stepped dams. Why do we only have like one series of turbines for a dam? Why aren't dams stepped? Why aren't they? Anyway, I'm done. I could go on all day if I want to. But other than that, I don't think I have anything else to say about the engine. That I could probably actually figure out how to design and build. It's not too difficult. You're just combining different technologies to make one thing that can do all sorts of different things. And but it's like this. What's the most efficient way of generating heat from an engine? Single cycle, right? Like my engine concept. It's well, I can't even think of the word. 4 cycle. There's what, 4? There's two stroke. There you go. They call them 2 strokes and 4 strokes. Well, I wanted to design a single stroke, and that's still viable, but Thing is, it would generate a lot of heat, right? Well, what if you wanted to use internal combustion to generate that much heat? And we could create supercritical fluid from it, and steam, and intake, and use our carbon emissions. How would you wash? I know that I don't know everything about catalytic converters, but how they, they don't last forever, right? So how could you then sustain the catalytic converter? Well, it goes back to business models where if you produce something too good, you end up putting yourself out of business, and people forget because they don't have the need to maintain technological studies for it. Like how many things we've lost from our past already. I think I'm done.